Hello everyone, this is VJose32 and this is Top 10. This week's Top 10 is not on this deck. This week's Top 10 is actually the top 7 magic companies and my opinions on them, shall we say. I'm only going with the top 7 because I couldn't think of any other ones that deserve to be there. Most of the other companies are smaller, a lot of them Kickstarter related, and they really don't produce. They haven't really been around that long or produced that many decks or anything like that. In case you're wondering, this is the DMC Great Whites. Anyways, let's get on with the list. I'm just going to play with these cards while I talk a little bit. Number 7 on the list is Conjuring Arts. I really don't got any problems with Conjuring Arts. It just seems to me like most of the decks are fairly standard, and I'm going to be going by a deck perspective, playing card perspective, not Magic or anything like that. Most of the decks that they have are fairly standard, made for Magic purposes. Some of them don't handle that great, like I know I have some, I guess, Acorn backs, possibly Smith backs, that don't handle as well as they could. Especially considering you're making cards for people to perform with, for Magic, for cardistry, and they clump. If they had decks of cards that had a little bit more pizzazz, a little more style, a little more flair, then they might be higher on the list. And of course, the most recent decks were those by the Expert Playing Card Company, and they just were not hugely popular with a lot of people. I don't think. I'm pretty certain they haven't sold out, like a lot of their other decks still haven't sold out. And we're not talking, unlimited releases here. They just haven't sold out. Alright. Number 7 on the list is Big Blind Media. Or should I say Big Skull Media, because that is apparently all they do, is skulls. Almost every single one of their decks is in the Carnival series, and almost all of them has skulls in it. One deck that isn't part of that series, although it could be, is a Discovery deck. It's kind of an interesting deck. It's weird in its own way. Like all the Carnival decks are weird in some way, for the most part. And they all got skulls and death and blood and stuff like that. And some people really like that. Some people don't. I mean, myself, I'm not a huge fan of it, but once I started buying Carnival cards, I felt that I had to continue getting them to have a complete collection. And now I'm kind of stuck buying them, because otherwise I won't have a complete collection, even though some of them aren't that great. On top of that, some of the decks don't handle that good, like especially the Carnival Ryuzian, or however you pronounce that for starters. Most people can't even pronounce that name correctly, and the deck handles like absolute crap. It's one of the worst decks I've seen. And then I got some other ones that also clump a bit. Dead Eyes, highly popular deck, very nice deck, but unfortunately it clumps. Too much ink or whatever. I don't know what the reason is, it just does. Maybe it's just a bad finish. I wish they would do something that's not skulls and death and blood and guts and devils and stuff like that. They got another one coming out, and it is more of the same, more skulls, more devil and stuff like that. It'd be nice if they did something different. I am pretty certain, I'm going to start a rumor right now. There's a rumor that we're going to be coming out with a guide to 1001 decks with skulls. I mean, seriously, they could do that. Another thing that brings them down a little bit is the fact that they've been reprinting too many decks. They had, you know, their original decks, the Assassins and the Renegades and the Midnights and the Deadeyes, and then they came out with some of them in limited foil boxes. Then more recently they started coming out with some of them like the Renegades and the Assassins and the original Carnival deck in new colors. We really need that? Is that if they run out of ideas that they have to reprint decks over and over? Maybe they don't have 1001 ideas for decks with skulls. Maybe they only have 10. That's that. Number 5 on the list, and I'm going from worst to best, by the way, is the Blue Crown. The Blue Crown has not been doing too good in my eyes. They've had some nice decks, mainly the Crown Luxuries and the Vaudeville. The original Crowns weren't too bad. The rest are sort of so-so. The Altruism decks, not really my favorite. The NOC decks, not really sure if they're supposed to be House of Plain cards or not. Very bland, plain. I mean, that was their biggest creative idea, was let's print a deck of cards that is completely solid back, no design, no artwork, nothing, just a plain back in different colors. And then they started reprinting those and adding more colors. They had that ridiculous Summer Club, which people are still waiting for videos, downloads from it. And they haven't really offered anything. They didn't have anything for members only. They didn't have a whole lot of releases in that time to warrant 15% discount on anything. And it's been pretty disappointing. $90 and really didn't get anything in return. When they got that stuff, they gave us, you know, crappy orange sunglasses, a t-shirt which I still haven't worn but isn't bad. They gave us a box that holds 6 decks, but they only gave us 2, which really upset a lot of people and left a lot of people scratching their heads. I mean, why in the hell are you sending a box that holds 6 decks, but you're only sending 2? On top of that, now there's not 6 but 7 colors in the NLC series, so you can't even put all of them in there. Oh yeah, I forgot they were sending out a 3rd deck, which was a limited, supposedly limited rare deck. But of course, most people just got gold crowns or black crowns, which they already had, or snow owls, I guess. I know one person was lucky enough to get a Crown Luxury deck, even though it was damaged slightly, and was lucky enough to get a replacement on top of that. And that's a rare Crown Luxury, not a regular one. And I don't know if anyone even got a Jerry's Nugget as promised. Probably nobody did. It was just a bunch of hype. If you did get the Jerry's Nugget, post a comment down below, because I want to know, because I didn't see anyone say that they got it. But there's been so many issues, and then of course so many reprints. Like they did a white version of the Arco deck way back when, which was fine. More recently, a white version of the Aladdin deck. They reprinted the Bicycle Lefty decks in not 1 but 2 colors. Like all of that is really necessary and warranted and in demand. On top of that, I will say that Alex Pandya seems to be the only owner of any of these companies that has to regularly answer to the people and defend himself and the company on Facebook and elsewhere. I know a lot of times it's against me, but I'm not the only one, far from it. A lot of people are upset about the Summer Club. They're upset about the most recent decks, the Nauticals, which are not USPC printed. and don't handle that well. They're printed by the same company that did the expert playing cards for Cards and Arts. In my opinion, they don't handle that well. Some people think they do. I'm not one of them. Haven't seen that yet. I'm also not pleased with how they handled the releases of some of their limited decks. For instance, when they released the first edition Crown set with 5 Crown decks, I jumped on board. I spent the $50 or whatever it was to get one free. And then later on they start giving away gold crowns to people who spend money elsewhere, and then they start selling gold crowns, and then it's selling them again and again. The value of the gold crowns went downhill. The value of that collector's set went right down the grave, literally. And I don't even want that thing anymore. Not that I'm giving it away, but I just don't really, I'm not happy with it. And it seems like every time they come out with a deck, like the altruisms and Aeronauticals, they make a deal, an offer where if you buy a brick of those decks, you get a free rare white one. And they have some kind of fascination with white. There's like 4 different decks they've done in white. Anyways, and they're all rare. Well, actually not rare, but 2 of them are rare. But anyways, they come up with these versions that are supposed to be rare and limited. Buy a brick, you get one free. It's fine and dandy. I don't appreciate it, and I know I'm not the only one. When we spend the money to buy a brick, to get one free, or we spend $50 or $100 to get something free, I'm fairly certain the people who spent $300 or more to get those limited edition Crown Luxuries were not happy about it either. These guys then turn around and they sell it. They're selling White Nauticals for $10. They're selling Snow Owls for about the same. They're selling the rare luxury Crown decks for $50 each. And apparently they still have them, as far as I know. And the people who spent all this money to get them free in the first place are not happy. I know I'm not. And I certainly would not be if I spent $300 to get a Crown Luxury. The way I like to look at it is, take Illusionist for example. Illusionist has done lots of decks like that, like the original LTDs, the Gold Arcanes, the Red Artifice, Black Ghost First Edition, Red Rounders, or I should say Scarlet Rounders, Scarlet Dealers. Those ones, you spend money, buy a brick, get one free. You spend $75, you get one free. Spend $100, you get one free. Whatever it is, they never, ever once sold those decks. They might have had 1,000 of those decks or 2,000 printed, but they never sold any. They just give them away if you spend a certain amount or if there's a contest. But the Blue Crown is the exact opposite. They actually turn around and sell them after people have spent their money buying a brick of cards to get one free. I was fortunate enough with this nautical deck that I got 2 free. Screw you, Alex. But I'm still not happy about it. And apparently, they say it's a rare. The White Nauticals are rare, limited quantities, but you can buy up to 36 if you want. That's free bricks, and they're still available. Nobody's interested. Nobody cares. And who knows how many they really printed. But anyways, that's my little rant about the Blue Crown. See if I can think of anything else before I move on. Okay, I'm good. I apologize that it is a little bit long. Next on the list, number 4 is Dad and Dave. I should say for the Blue Crown, you know, the quality of most of the decks is pretty good, aside from that nautical deck. They're usually pretty good about, you know, customer service. If they get a damaged deck, they'll replace it and stuff like that. However, I'm not a huge fan of how they do the releases sometimes. And you know what? Another issue I've had on at least 2 or 3 occasions is they had a release. They sold the cards. You go to checkout on the website, and your credit card's being declined because they're having issues. That happened at least 2 times, and that's inexcusable. It's something that's to be looked at before the sale goes live. And they've had they've had some glitches and hasn't been perfect. Originally, the Crown decks used to sell out really fast, and now all the releases, they don't sell out anymore. Go figure. Blah. At least not recently. Alright, so the next one on the list, number 4, is Dan and Dave. Dan and Dave, their cards aren't bad. A lot of them are pretty good quality. But they haven't released anything in like a year for some bizarre reason. Apparently they're arrogant pricks from what I've heard. And they were associated with a project on Kickstarter called Fallen Cards, which is a TV show that they're supposed to star in, but they didn't promote any little bit of it. They haven't helped finance anything. They've kind of distanced themselves from the project. And that's kind of crappy in my opinion. You're going to be the star of this show and you don't even bother to advertise it or promote it in any way, get people to back it. I don't think it's ever going to happen, that series, but we'll see what happens. I would recommend finding someone aside from Dan and Dave to star in it though. Anyway. Dan and Dave, the last deck they did release were pretty horrible. The Ace Fulton's casino decks were just horrible handling wise, right out of the box. They reprinted some of them with a new finish and they're a little bit better apparently, but I don't have those unfortunately. Not a huge fan of the membership. Basically the only thing you get from the membership is a discount for like $90 a year. The one time they had something worthwhile was when they released the yellow Chinatowns, and then by the time I got the membership they were sold out, and I ended up getting some in the end, but it was still pretty bogus. And that was it. That was the only time. And then of course later on they started selling Chinatowns as a combo with a stripper deck, and that kind of pissed me off a little bit, and that was just for everyone. They did the same thing with the Midnight Ace Fultons, where you bought a brick and you got one free, and then later on they started selling it with a stripper version. And why the hell they feel like they need to make stripper decks out of everything, I don't know, but they've done that. Those 2 decks, the Steamboats, the new Fanvacs, and actually those are the last releases they did, the Steamboats and the new Fanvacs, which are pretty nice looking and handle good, but the reprints. The one they did before that, I believe, was the Smoke and Mirrors reprints, which a lot of people are not happy about because there was no need to reprint all 6 original decks. All we needed was a new D7, and you couldn't even buy those individually. You had to spend $90 to buy the complete set in order to get it. To this day, they still refuse to sell the Carbon Smoke and Mirrors decks individually. You have to go elsewhere if you want them, or you have to buy 6, which is absolute crap. And they really screwed up with that whole Smoke and Mirror thing because they printed, to my understanding, 10,000 of each color, and nobody's gonna buy that many. Needless to say, they're unlimited for a long time. It would be nice if they are selling them individually, but it would be nice if the Carbons were sold individually, but I guess they don't want to sell those individually. That's their problem. They could make more money if they did that, but I guess they don't want to. I guess I wasn't a fan of the membership. A lot of the cards just don't handle that great. They haven't done any releases lately, but you know, previously a lot of the cards were pretty good, like the Magicons, the original Smoke and Mirrors, and they've had some pretty good ideas, some pretty good decks. Can't think of anything else to say about that. Number 3 on the list is 311. 311. You know, they're not bad. I got no major issues with them. Aside from all the decks are basically standard and absolutely boring. Their boxes are magnificent. Amazing works of art. They got foil all over them. They emboss the hell out of them. They create a nice back design. And then the faces absolutely blow. They're just standard. You know, to me it's kind of like you know, some of these Playboy Playmates or strippers or whatever, they look good on the outside, as do these playing cards when you look at the box. But when you get to the inside, actually get to know these people, probably not so much. They're probably crackheads or whatever. That's the way I look at it. It's like, it's kind of like that. Or, how else could I put it? You know, it's something that looks good on the outside, like some, you know, attractive women, and then on the inside, you find out the personality is not so great, and that's kind of what it's like. I thought I had something else to describe it as, but I think you know what I mean, you know. Or even like some celebrities or personalities. Hey, it's kind of like Justin Bieber. There you go. Justin Bieber, a lot of the girls think he's hot. It looks good on the outside and everything, but the inside is kind of fucked up. That's what 311 decks are kind of like. They look amazing on the outside, but the inside, not so much. You don't care for it. It'd be nice if they did more decks that were fully custom, or if they just changed the code cards just a little bit. Just change the code cards or the pips a little bit, customize them. It'd be so much cooler. On top of that, they reprinted multiple colors of the Monarchs. They had the whole White Monarchs fiasco where they were selling decks, very limited quantities. The website crashed. They did that twice. Once wasn't enough. And then they said screw it, and then later they released the silver versions, and then people said screw the white ones, you can just get the silver ones. It's a lot easier and cheaper. And yeah, that's my biggest complaint about 311 is that. Number 2 on the list is House of Playing Cards. Now I know this one could be on the same list as Blue Crown because they're owned by the same people, same company. However, that would be showing a disrespect to the artists who created the decks that are on House of Playing Cards, like Jose Emanuel, who created the Curator, Randy Butterfield, who created the Ornates, and now the Imperial deck through his company, Midnight Playing Card Company. Russell Kurtzwell created the amazing Americana deck, the Mechanic deck from Mechanic Industries, etc., etc. The only ones that are kind of a failure are the NOC decks. Excuse me, I need to have a drink. I'm talking too much. The NOC decks, again, I think they're available on both websites. My biggest issue is that they reprinted the freaking things, which is completely unnecessary. And to make things better, they actually mark them. When I heard about that, I had to really get close on the screen and try to see where the hell they marked the cards. This is before I bought them. And even when I bought them, I was kind of like, how the frick did they mark them? It's a freaking plain back. There's no possible way they marked them. Then I found out it was the corners, and they made it so that you can identify the suit. And then I think to myself, how the hell is this even useful? So you're doing a magic trick, and a spectator picks a card, and you go, okay, well, pretty sure your card is a spade. I have no freaking idea what spade it is, but I know it's a spade. Let's do the next trick now. How the hell are you supposed to use it? It's completely impractical. If you're supposed to use it for cheating, it's still impractical. It makes absolutely no sense to have these. It might be practical for one or two tricks, possibly, or whatever. But aside from that, it's completely impractical, unnecessary, and it's not really a marking, in my opinion. It's just a weird border. Because it's not marked. There's no markings on it. It's just, the corners are different. That's the one misstep they've had, I think, with House of Point cards. And that's more Blue Crown's fault and not the other guys. So anyways, this leaves one. Probably won't surprise you. And that is Illusionist. To me, Illusionist is pretty damn good and everything. I know some people may not be such big fans of them. However, they create amazing looking decks, usually 100% custom. I'd say 99% of the cards of their decks handle very well. They've only had a few missteps, like the Fanback Viper tally holes and Black Tigers with white pips, which were just kind of not a great idea in my opinion, because you don't want, nobody wants cards that have pips that are all one color. You want to see colors, you want to be able to identify suits and colors and stuff like that. Aside from that, I mean, no major complaints. They did have some issues when they released the Red Artifice, and they crashed the website, and they allowed people to continue slowly that's a sound effect, slowly check out that day, and that screwed over a lot of people, myself included. We weren't able to get Red Artifices because their website was basically, it was extremely slow. It wasn't working. People were, like 10,000 people were trying to refresh the pages at the same time. And some people were lucky, they checked out, they got their stuff either before the crash or sometime after it came back and it was slow. And what they should have done was postpone the whole sale, redone it. If you checked out, great, you got your decks. If you didn't, then that looks pretty damn cool. If you didn't get the decks, then there'd be another opportunity. Kind of like what Fear 11 did for the White Monarchs. But they didn't do that. They said screw it, and they pissed off a lot of people in the end. The other thing that I'm not too excited about is their membership. It costs almost $150 a year. They sure as hell be giving, they sure as hell better be giving current members discounts on a renewal, because I do not want to pay $150 again. There was some freebies like videos and video downloads, and there was a free Rounders deck. There was free, what was it, Scarlet Dealers. And I think Scarlet Rounders, when you bought a certain amount, you got first dibs. I like that we have the ability to get in on decks before everyone else. And that's about it. Everweight, they do produce nice cards. Membership's a little bit of a letdown. A little bit, just because of the price. Other than that, I like the membership, but it's just too freaking expensive. And that's that. I do think that they should change the limit on the black Artifice decks. And that's about it. Most of the decks, like I said, are nice. Handle very nicely, as you can see. And that's why they're number one. That's what I've got. And let me just say that some of these other companies might have been up higher on the list if they improved their cards, if they had better quality, if they customized more, or they weren't complete dicks. And I mean, the Blue Crown, for example, they're pissing off a lot of people. A lot of people are on the forums, on my Facebook page saying, you know what, we're not buying any more decks from them. Not for a long time now, unless they got something really nice. And we're done. And they're losing customers. And I know also they screwed up with the mechanic decks. They printed way too many, spent way too much money. They're bleeding financially. That's why they're overcharging for decks like those nautical decks, and that's why they're trying to sell these rare decks for $50 a piece. And, well, that's all I've got. Anyways, I apologize if this is really wrong. See you next time. Oh, and by the way, the contest, September contest draw results will be tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. See ya.